You don't need to be beautiful to be loved. Please marry my blind sister in deep space. There is silence, not peaceful silence, the kind that waits. On the rim of human territory, the small colony Horizon 12 floated like a tiny spark in an endless dark. The people there lived slow lives. No soldiers, no war. No one even carried a weapon. They mined rare minerals, sent them to Earth, and spent their evenings watching the purple sunset fall behind the glass mountains. Life was so gentle that people forgot danger existed, and that is when danger came. It began at 02:14 local time. The stars outside the colony window began to disappear one by one, like someone was erasing the sky. The night sensors detected movement, something massive blocking the starlight. The colony's communication officer, a young woman named Taya Wynn, leaned forward and squinted out of the observatory glass. At first, she thought it was a storm. Then she realized storms do not fly. A formation of black metal warships slid silently above the colony, their shapes jagged like broken teeth. Not smooth like human ships. These were built for terror, not travel. Taya's voice trembled as she spoke into the emergency channel. Command. We are seeing vessels. Unknown design. Size exceeds recorded class. Requesting. A deep mechanical sound interrupted her. A horn, long and low, echoing across the sky, vibrating the air. The colony woke in fear. Windows lit up. Doors opened. People stepped outside and stared upward. The ships did not fire at first. They waited, like predators watching. Then a voice, metallic, cold, broadcast across the colony speakers. Humans. Your age of wandering ends. Kneel or be removed. Panic followed. Some tried to run to the shelters. Some grabbed their children. Some simply froze, and then the sky exploded. Bright white plasma rained down, burning through buildings like paper. The ground shook. The air filled with fire and smoke and screams. The colony had no defense, no shields, no weapons. This was not a war. It was slaughter. The invaders, the Vrax Dominion, walked through the flames. The Vrax were tall, twice as tall as humans, with armor like bone plates and eyes that glowed like molten metal. They did not rush. They did not shout. They advanced with slow confidence like hunters. They expected no resistance, and mostly, they were right, but not completely, because Horizon 12 had one person the Vrax did not expect. Dr. Elias Ward, former war strategist now retired, now a simple teacher who spent his days telling children about history and his nights planting small flowers in recycled cans. War had taken everything from him once. He had left it behind, but war came back. Elias was in the school when the bombardment hit. The windows shattered. The alarm screamed. The students cried. He told them only one sentence. Stay behind me. He did not have a gun, but he had the mind of a man who once designed battles that changed star systems. He led the children into the old cargo tunnels, long forgotten. Built when the colony was first founded, most colonists did not know the tunnels existed, but Elias did. He sealed the doors. The explosions shook the dust loose from the ceiling. Children shivered. One small boy whispered, Dr. Ward, why is this happening? Elias forced his hands to stop shaking. Because someone believed we were weak, the boy swallowed. Are we? Elias looked him in the eyes. No. He accessed the emergency transmitter, an old dusty panel that had not been touched in years. Its screen flickered, its power low, but it worked. He typed in a code he had hoped to never use again. Code black. Level Revenant. The signal did not go to the military. It went somewhere darker, somewhere older, somewhere the public believed had been shut down. A voice answered cold, calm, familiar. Dr. Ward, is it time? Elias closed his eyes. Yes, they are here. The Vrax Dominion. A long silence. Then the voice spoke. Understood. The Revenants are waking. Elias's breath shook. He had once helped create them. The Revenants were not a normal military unit. They were humans built for war the same way stars are built for fusion. Soldiers who survived humanity's worst battles. Soldiers who were trained to adapt, endure, and never surrender. Soldiers so relentless that even enemies who won against them feared them in memory. They had been sealed away because the galaxy had finally known peace. Peace was over now. In the tunnels, a young girl tugged Elias's sleeve. Her voice was tiny but steady. "Who are the revenants?" Elias opened the hatch to guide the children deeper. His face was pale, but his eyes held iron. "They are the ones who do not break." The colony outside burned. The Vrak's commander raised his glowing staff and spoke. This was a warning. "Your worlds will fall. Your people will kneel. Humanity is finished." But far away, in the dark chambers of Earth's silent military vaults, metal doors began to open. Weapons hummed to life. Eyes that had been closed for years opened again, and one voice echoed through the awakening halls. "You messed with humans." Bad move. War had begun. The legends returned deep beneath the surface of Earth. There is a place no map shows. No signs, no official records. Just a door of black steel marked by a single word, Revenant. Most humans thought it was a myth, a rumor, a story told in military bars, but myths come from something real, and now the myth was waking up. The signal from Horizon 12 arrived at Earth Defense Headquarters at dawn. The sun rose over the ocean, but inside the command center the mood was dark. Admiral Ryan Holt stood over the holographic map. He looked like a man carved out of stone, sharp features, tired eyes, back straight even under the weight of hard decisions. He watched as the image of Horizon 12 flickered. Burning buildings, smoke, silence. A young officer whispered, "Sir, we can send standard fleets. 2 carriers. Maybe 3. Holt did not answer. He knew what fleets meant: time, movement, delay. The colony did not have time, and the enemy was already spreading. He tapped the console. The room fell silent. Holt spoke one sentence. "Prepare Vault 7, the officer froze. Everyone froze, "Sir, Vault 7 is restricted under Galactic Peace Code. We are not authorized." Holt looked up, his voice cold and heavy. Peace has already been broken. No one argued again. Beneath Earth's surface, the vault opened with a slow, deep groan, like something ancient waking from sleep. Inside were soldiers, not sleeping in beds, sleeping in suspension chambers, floating in blue liquid. Hearts slowed, minds quiet. They were men and women of different ages, different worlds, but all shared the same mark burned onto their shoulder. A, black diamond with a slash through it, Revenant. The chamber lights turned red. The first to wake was Commander Rhea Carter. Her eyes opened slowly, dark, focused, calm. She did not gasp. She did not panic. She simply returned to being alive. She stepped out of the chamber. The cold steam slid off her skin. She looked around and saw her old team waking too. Faces she had fought beside, bled beside, died beside. A technician approached carefully, like one approaches a sleeping predator. "Commander Carter." "Situation briefing is ready." Rhea said nothing. She simply followed. Her walk was quiet, controlled, efficient. She moved like someone who knew exactly how to break a body and exactly how to fix a broken machine. In the briefing room, Admiral Holt appeared on the screen. His voice was steady, but his eyes carried the weight of loss. "Commander, the Vrak's Dominion has attacked Horizon 12. Rhea listened without blinking. "How many survivors?" she asked. "Less than 1%. Mostly children." A muscle moved in her jaw, small but sharp like a spark catching flame. "Reason?" she asked. "They are testing us. They believe humans are weak. They want to see how fast we fall." Rhea's eyes changed. They did not blaze with rage. They cooled, like steel being tempered. "They made a mistake," she said. Holt nodded. "We need the revenants. But understand, if you engage, there is no going back. Peace treaties will break. The galaxy will watch." Rhea leaned forward slightly. "Let them watch." The revenants gathered in the armory. Their armor was not shiny, not ceremonial. It was matte black, flexible, silent. Built for movement, not show. Their weapons were not heavy guns or gigantic cannons. They favored compact rifles, blades, drones, EMP charges, tools that changed battles without being seen. Sergeant Cade Rowan, tall, fast, always smirking, slapped his armor chest plate. "Back to work, huh?" he said. Beside him, Dr. Leon Vera, combat medic, quiet eyes, calm mind, checked medical injectors. Work never ended. "It was just waiting," she replied. Rhea spoke to them. "Listen carefully. This enemy does not fear us. They don't know what humans become when we protect our own. We will teach them." Cade grinned. Class is in session. Meanwhile, on the far side of the galaxy, the Vrax General Vorath Kur watched footage of the burning colony. He stood on a warship bridge surrounded by loyal soldiers. His heavy armor glowed with power. His voice rumbled like thunder. "Humans run. Humans cry. Humans break." A soldier approached. "General, we intercepted a transmission. It mentioned something called Revenant." Vorath frowned. He had heard the word before. Once. Long ago. A battle story. A whisper. A name spoken by dying officers. He had ignored it. Now he was not so sure. "What is a revenant?" he asked quietly. No one answered. The silence was the answer. Vorath's eyes narrowed. "Find them," he ordered. "And break them." Back on Earth, the revenants boarded their ship. It was small, fast, black, shaped like a spear thrown by a god. Rhea stood at the front. Her voice was calm. "We do not fight because we want war. We fight because they left us no choice. We don't conquer. We don't enslave. We protect. And we never, ever break." Engines ignited. The ship vanished into the stars. War was no longer coming. War was being delivered. First contact of fear, the Revenant strike ship, black signal, glided through space with no sound and no beacon. It did not broadcast identity. It did not ask permission. It simply moved, like a shadow with purpose. Inside, the team prepared. No loud music. No motivational speeches. No shouting, just quiet. Quiet like the deep sea right before a storm. Commander Rhea Carter sat in front of a holographic map of the Vrax warship they were approaching. The Vrax ship was massive, 3 kilometers long, shaped like a hooked claw. Its hull glowed with faint red lights, like embers buried under ash. Rhea traced a path through the ship's ventilation corridors. "Entry point here," she said. "We avoid main halls. We avoid direct combat. We move unseen. We take control of navigation and engines. Then we decide what happens next." Sergeant Cade Rowan strapped on his stealth gear. "So we're ghosts," he said. "We've always been ghosts," Rhea replied. Cade smirked. Because she was right. The infiltration. The Revenants launched from their ship in small black capsules, silent, fast, invisible to sensors. They hit the Vrax hull like falling feathers. No alarms, no lights, no response. One by one, the Revenants cut through the outer plating with quiet plasma tools and slipped inside. The corridors of the Vrax warship were cold and dim. Steam hissed from cracked pipes. The walls were made of dark metal that seemed to swallow sound. "We're in," Rhea whispered. The team moved like liquid shadow. No footsteps, no talking. Every breath controlled. Every movement precise. A single dropped tool could mean death. They passed Vrax patrols. The Vrax soldiers were huge, armored, loud. They walked confidently, believing the ship was safe. They did not know death was already walking behind them. The first encounter, 2 Vrax guards stood in a narrow hallway, speaking in their harsh, gravel-like language. They laughed. The cruel kind of laugh predators use when they see no threat in the world. Rhea lifted her hand. 2 Revenants moved. No guns. No explosions. Just soundless motion, a flash of a knife, a soft exhale. 2 bodies lowered gently to the floor. Not a drop of blood touched ground. Cade whispered. "They don't even know we're here." Rhea's eyes stayed forward. "They will." Psychological warfare. Begins humans did not try to overpower the Vrax with strength. They used something far more dangerous. Fear. Revenants planted echo bugs, tiny devices that crawled into the ship's speakers. Soon the ship's sound system crackled. A voice whispered, soft. "Calm, human. We see you." Vrax soldiers froze. Another whisper. "From the opposite side of the ship. We are inside." Shadows flickered in corridors. Lights dimmed. Doors opened and closed on their own. The Vrax began to sweat. The Dominion trained for battles with armies, explosions, front lines. Clear enemies, but this? This was the dark. This was the unknown. This was human warfare. The control room. Rhea and her team reached the central engine chamber. Pulsing blue light flickered like a heartbeat. Dr. Leon Vera knelt beside the control hub and began hacking the VRAC system. Her fingers moved fast, too fast for normal humans. Years of battlefield triage had trained her hands for speed. A VRAC's alarm finally blared. They found one of the bodies, Cade said. Rhea nodded. Time to move to Phase 2. Leon hit the final command. The ship lights turned blood red. Gravity flickered. Metal groaned. Every VRAX felt the ship tremble. Fear takes root VRAX. Captain Dorcas slammed his fist on the command table. Find the intruders.
They are few!
Crush them! His soldiers did not move. Their hands shook. Their breathing trembled because the whispers had changed. They no longer said where the humans were. They now spoke what the humans knew. We know your training. We know your tactics. We know your weakness. One VRAC soldier shouted, "They hide! They are cowards!" The whisper answered softly, "No, we hunt. Close combat." 3 VRAX warriors cornered Cade near the reactor coolant line. They were twice his size. They roared and charged. Cade didn't run. He slid under the first strike, placed a shock pad under one soldier's arm joint, nerve disable. He redirected the second's weight, cracking its exoskeleton against a pipe. He leapt onto the third's back, wrapped a cable, and pulled until the giant creature fell. 3 seconds. 3 enemies down. He breathed out once. Still got it. Rhea's message, the Revenants regrouped at the ship bridge. The VRAC's command crew were already unconscious, taken down without a sound. Rhea turned on the ship-wide broadcast. Every VRAX on the ship stopped breathing. They expected an angry voice. A threat, a roar, but Rhea's voice was calm. You came to test humanity. That was your first mistake. Her voice echoed in every corridor, every room. You believed we are weak. That was your second mistake. Silence followed. Then she spoke the final line. Your last mistake was letting us inside. The VRAX finally understood. Humans did not fear the dark. Humans were born from it. And for the first time in VRAX history, warriors of the Dominion felt fear. The human advantage, the VRAX Dominion had conquered many species. They had crushed worlds where creatures were stronger, faster, and larger than humans. They had defeated civilizations with better weapons, better ships, and better numbers. So why were they struggling now? Why were the corridors of their battleship filled with soldiers who hesitated? Why did their hands shake when they approached dark hallways? Why did they flinch at their own reflections? Because the enemy now was not just human. It was a human shaped by Earth. The origin of the advantage, long before the VRAX ruled the stars, Earth was a violent cradle. Lightning storms that cracked oceans, volcanoes that blackened skies, ice ages and heat waves that shattered ecosystems. Life survived only by learning to adapt, to fight, to endure, to change. The first humans hunted animals much larger than themselves. They built fire in the cold. They crossed oceans in wooden shells. They conquered disease, hunger, gravity, and death. Earth itself was a battlefield. So war was not new to humans. War was heritage. The VRAX did not understand this. Not yet. Inside the warship commander, Rhea Carter and her revenants moved deeper into the VRAX ship. They walked as if they had all the time in the world. Behind them, lights flickered. Doors locked or opened on their own. Small drones crawled through vents, mapping everything. The VRAX commander, Vorath Kur, watched the chaos from the control deck of another ship nearby. His armor glowed like burning coal. His voice shook, not with fear, but confusion. These humans are few. They are smaller. They have weaker bones. They lack exoskeleton armor. Why are we losing? His strategist, Zerath, answered carefully. It is not their bodies we are fighting. It is their minds, Vorath growled. Explain. Zerath stared at the footage of the revenants moving like smoke. Humans learned to survive on a world that tried to kill them every day. Every season, every breath. Their instincts are sharper. Their creativity is dangerous. They are unpredictable. Vorath's fists tightened. We will break them, Zerath spoke quietly. We have tried that before. The trap back inside the battleship. A squad of VRAX soldiers set up an ambush. Heavy cannons. Shock nets. Armor reinforced. They were ready. They were confident. They were wrong. Because the revenants did not walk into the trap. They guided it. Small drone under the floor released a soft sound like the cry of an injured child. Humans knew that sound. Humans understood bait. The Vraks did not. The Vraks rushed toward the sound, charging toward where they expected humans. They ran away from where the humans actually were. Cade Rowan placed a single charge on the ceiling. Pipe. The pipe exploded. Superheated coolant sprayed across the armored. Their armor cracked, their bodies froze. Their breath turned to ice. Their lungs hardened. The ambush force collapsed in seconds. Cade didn't celebrate. He simply whispered, predictable. The Vraks mistake Vraks trained soldiers to obey, to follow orders, to move in formation, to attack directly, to solve problems with force. Humans trained to improvise, adapt, redirect energy, turn weaknesses into strength. Where the Vraks said, do not move from formation, humans said, find the angle no one sees. Where the Vraks said, use strongest weapon, humans said, use smallest idea in the smartest way. The Vraks saw war as a machine. Humans saw war as a living puzzle. That was the difference. That was the advantage. Rhea speaks in the heart of the Vraks ship. Rhea opened a channel, not to taunt, not to threaten, but to teach. Her voice flowed through every speaker, calm and steady. Strength is not muscle. Strength is purpose. Vraks soldiers froze. You came here believing we are weak because we feel. Because we love. Because we mourn. She took a breath, a soft, slow breath. You do not understand. Love is the strongest weapon in the universe. Because it does not retreat. It does not surrender. It does not break. Her voice grew colder. You attacked our families. You attacked children. And now you face the consequences. The turning silence across the ship. Vrak soldiers stopped speaking, not because they could not speak, but because there were no words, no training prepared them for this. No manual taught them how to fight someone who fights for home. The Vraks believed fear was power. Humans believed protection was power, and protection is stronger. Always, Vorath. Kur realizes on his ship, Vorath finally understood, not fear, not strategy, not tactics, but the reason humans were dangerous. Humans do not fight for glory. Humans do not fight for conquest. Humans do not fight for rank. Humans fight for the people standing behind them, and no force in the galaxy can stop someone protecting what they love, Vorath whispered. We did not start a war. He closed his eyes. We awakened one. The turning point. The Vraks battleship drifted in space, silent except for the distant hum of engines and the faint echo of alarms, still trying to understand what had gone wrong. The ship was not destroyed. It was taken. Lights were dim. Hallways were empty. Doors hung open like mouths frozen mid-scream. Human footsteps echoed softly. Slow and steady, too calm for a battlefield. Commander Rhea Carter led the way through the corridor. The rest of the revenants behind her, moving with quiet precision. No panic, no rush. Only purpose. They were heading toward the detention decks, where the survivors were. The survivors. The detention area was dark, lit only by weak red emergency lights. Inside were dozens of human civilians, families, workers, elders, children. They were bruised, exhausted, scared, but alive. When Rhea stepped through the door, they did not cheer. They did not run. They simply stared. Because the revenants did not look like ordinary soldiers. Their armor was black and silent. Their steps made no sound. Their eyes were calm and hard, like stone cliffs facing violent waves. They looked like the kind of people who survived everything. A small girl, barely 7, stepped forward, clutching a blanket around her shoulders. Her voice was tiny. Are you real? Rhea knelt down. Not in a dramatic way, just enough to be eye level. Yes, she said softly. We're here. You're safe now. The girl looked at her for a long moment. Long enough to understand something important. These were not saviors. These were warriors. She nodded once and whispered, Thank you. Rhea stood. We move, she said to her team, and that was it. No long speech, no grand promises, just action. The message to the galaxy. While Rhea led the survivors to extraction, Sergeant Cade Rowan and Dr. Leon Vera entered the ship's communication center. Screens flickered. Systems rebooted. The ship's broadcast channels lit up. This ship was connected to the Vrax command network, which meant one thing. The Revenants could now speak to every Vrax ship in range. Cade grinned. Time to say hello. But Rhea's voice cut through his earpiece. No threats. No warning. Only truth. Cade nodded. The camera activated. Rhea stepped into frame. Helmet off, face steady, eyes unwavering. She didn't speak loudly. She didn't have to. Her voice was controlled. Like a blade sharpened for a single strike. To the Vrax Dominion. You have touched what we protect. Silence. You believed we would break. The screens flickered across dozens of enemy ships. You believed kindness was weakness. You believed emotion was flaw. You believed love was soft. Her eyes narrowed slightly. You were wrong. The Vrax reaction on multiple ships. Commanders paused. Soldiers stopped mid-step. The Vrax were not used to speeches. They were used to roaring declarations of dominance, but this was different. This was a warning spoken as fact, not shouted. Not screamed, stated as truth, one Vrax officer whispered. This is not a conqueror's voice. His superior replied quietly, No, this is a protector's voice, and protectors are far more dangerous. The emotional flameback on board the captured ship, Rhea walked beside the freed survivors. The small girl from earlier held her hand now, not tightly, just enough to feel presence. Rhea had seen battlefields. She had seen planets burn. She had seen soldiers fall. But nothing affected her like the sight of a child trying not to cry in a war she never asked for. She remembered something her mother told her long ago. The strongest warriors are the ones who fight for someone else. Rhea did not fight for revenge. Not for glory, not for pride. She fought for them, the weak, the innocent, the ones who could not fight. And that made her unstoppable. The escape. The Revenants loaded the survivors into evacuation shuttles, one after another. Engines ignited and the ships launched toward safety. Cade walked beside Rhea. Extraction. Complete, he reported. Rhea nodded, but her eyes. We're on the stars outside the viewport. The Vrax will retaliate, he said quietly. Rhea didn't. Blink, yes, and they'll come hard. Yes, Cade. Exhaled slowly. So what's the plan? Rhea spoke without hesitation. We bring the fight to them. Cade smiled. Not a happy smile, but the smile of someone who has found the answer that always lived inside him about time. The turning point. The Vrax believed this battle was a small loss. They did not understand. This was not a battle. This was a pivot, a shift, a moment. Where the hunter realizes the prey can bite hard. The galaxy did not yet know it, but history had just changed direction. The Revenants were awake. Humanity was no longer defending. Humanity was coming. The turning point, the Vrax battleship drifted in space, silent except for the distant hum of engines and the faint echo of alarms still trying to understand what had gone wrong. The ship was not destroyed. It was taken, lights were dim, hallways were empty, doors hung open like mouths frozen mid-scream. Human footsteps echoed softly, slow and steady, too calm for a battlefield. Commander Rhea Carter led the way through the corridor. The rest of the Revenants behind her, moving with quiet precision. No panic, no rush, only purpose. They were heading toward the detention decks, where the survivors were. The detention area was dark, lit only by weak red emergency lights. Inside were dozens of human civilians, families, workers, elders, children. They were bruised, exhausted, scared, but alive. When Rhea stepped through the door, they did not cheer. They did not run. They simply stared, because the Revenants did not look like ordinary soldiers. Their armor was black and silent. Their steps made no sound. Their eyes were calm and hard, like stone cliffs facing violent waves. They looked like the kind of people who survived everything. A small girl, barely 7, stepped forward, clutching a blanket around her shoulders. Her voice was tiny. Are you real? Rhea knelt down, not in a dramatic way, Just enough to be eye level. Yes, she said softly. We're here. You're safe now. The girl looked at her for a long moment, long enough to understand something important. These were not saviors. These were warriors. She nodded once and whispered, "Thank you." Rhea stood. "We move," she said to her team, and that was it. No long speech, no grand promises, just action. The message to the galaxy, while Rhea led the survivors to extraction, Sergeant Cade Rowan and Dr. Leon Vera entered the ship's communication center. Screens flickered. Systems rebooted. The ship's broadcast channels lit up. This ship was connected to the Vrax command network, which meant one thing. The Revenants could now speak to every Vrax ship in range. Cade grinned. Time to say hello. But Rhea's voice cut through his earpiece. No threats. No warning. Only truth. Cade nodded. The camera activated. Rhea stepped into frame. Helmet off, face steady, eyes unwavering. She didn't speak loudly. She didn't have to. Her voice was controlled, like a blade sharpened for a single strike. To the Vrax Dominion, you have touched what we protect. Silence. You believed we would break. The screens flickered across dozens of enemy ships. You believed kindness was weakness. You believed emotion was flaw. You believed love was soft. Her eyes narrowed slightly. You were wrong. The Vrax reaction on multiple ships. Commanders paused. Soldiers stopped mid-step. The Vrax were not used to speeches. They were used to roaring declarations of dominance. But this was different. This was a warning spoken as fact, not shouted. Not screamed, stated as truth, one Vrax officer whispered. This is not a conqueror's voice, his superior replied quietly. No, this is a protector's voice, and protectors are far more dangerous. The emotional flame back on board the captured ship. Rhea walked beside the freed survivors. The small girl from earlier held her hand now, not tightly, just enough to feel presence. Rhea had seen battlefields. She had seen planets burn. She had seen soldiers fall, but nothing affected her like the sight of a child trying not to cry in a war she never asked for. She remembered something her mother told her long ago. The strongest warriors are the ones who fight for someone else. Rhea did not fight for revenge. Not for glory, not for pride. She fought for them, the weak, the innocent, the ones who could not fight, and that made her unstoppable. The escape. The Revenants loaded the survivors into evacuation shuttles. One after another, engines ignited and the ships launched toward safety. Cade walked beside Rhea. Extraction. Complete, he reported. Rhea nodded, but her eyes were on the stars outside the viewport. The Vrax will retaliate, he said quietly. Rhea didn't. Blink. Yes. And they'll come hard. Yes. Cade exhaled slowly. So what's the plan? Rhea spoke without hesitation. We bring the fight to them. Cade smiled, not a happy smile, but the smile of someone who has found the answer that always lived inside him. About time, the turning point, the Vrax believed this battle was a small loss they did not understand. This was not a battle. This was a pivot, a shift, a moment where the hunter realizes the prey can bite hard. The galaxy did not yet know it. But history had just changed direction. The Revenants were awake. Humanity was no longer defending. Humanity was coming. The lesson they will never forget: peace did not arrive with trumpets. It came quietly, like the slow warmth of sunrise after a long, cold night. The galaxy had expected fire, revenge, punishment. But humans did something no one expected. They forgave, not because they were weak, but because forgiveness is something only the strong can give. Rebuilding the ruins. The Vrax Dominion was broken, not by destruction but by truth. Their government collapsed. Their army stood without purpose. Their people were confused, afraid, ashamed. For generations, they had been taught that strength meant domination. Now they were learning something new. Strength could mean protection. Strength could mean mercy. Human engineers landed on Vrax worlds to help rebuild hospitals, schools, and infrastructure. Revenant soldiers helped retrain former Vrax warriors, not into conquerors, but into peacekeepers. There were moments of tension. Moments of anger, moments of grief. But step by step, stone by stone, the galaxy healed. The ceremony, a grand gathering, was held on a neutral station orbiting a quiet star. Leaders from dozens of species attended: humans, Vrax, Talon, Draish, and others who had simply watched the war from the shadows. No banners. No parade. Just a simple open hall and a platform. Commander Rhea Carter stood there, not in armor now, but in a simple black jacket. She looked smaller without the gear, more human, more fragile, and somehow stronger. Beside her stood the young Vrax recruit who had taken the first step on Gorith Prime, the one who had said, "No more." His name was Saren Voss, once taught to fear and hate. Now he stood as a symbol of change. The galaxy waited. Rhea spoke first, not loud, not dramatic, just steady. War teaches us many things. But the hardest lesson is this: the enemy you fear is often just someone who was taught to fear you first. Silence filled the hall. We humans are not the strongest, not the fastest, not the oldest. But we survive, we endure, and when someone threatens what we love, we rise. She looked at the gathered leaders, meeting every gaze. Humanity did not win because we fight with weapons. We won because we fight with purpose. Saren Voss stepped forward. He took a breath. Vrax did not often speak from emotion. This was new for him. "I was raised to believe humans were weak," he said, "that they cried too much, that they cared too much, that their hearts made them breakable." His voice shook, not from fear, but from truth. I was wrong. Their hearts do not make them weak. Their hearts make them unstoppable. Somewhere in the audience, someone exhaled shakily. A small sound, but it carried across the hall like a wave. A new alliance, the two signed a treaty. Not one of control, not one of dominance. A treaty of shared protection. Humans and Vrax, once enemies, now agreed to defend each other from any threat, internal or external. It was not perfect. No peace ever is. There would be disagreements, misunderstandings, growing pains. But the foundation was strong, because it was built on choice, not fear. The child and the flower after the ceremony. Rhea walked alone through the station's quiet garden dome. She needed space, to breathe, to exist without the weight of command for a moment. She noticed a small Vrax child kneeling in the soil, staring at a flower. The flower was simple, a tiny blue blossom, reaching toward the artificial sunlight. Rhea approached slowly. The child did not flinch or hide. He simply looked up. "Why is it alive?" he asked softly. Rhea knelt beside him. "Because someone cared enough to plant it," she said. The child watched the flower for a long time. Then he whispered, "Things grow where there is care." Rhea felt something warm in her chest. "Yes," she said. "Exactly that." The final lesson later, aboard the Revenant flagship. Cade joined Rhea on the observation deck. Stars drifted slowly past. "So," Cade asked, leaning against the railing, "do you think the galaxy learned something?" Rhea didn't answer at first. She watched the stars, distant, calm, endless. Then she said, "They learned that humans are dangerous." Cade smirked. "Yeah, we made that pretty clear." Rhea shook her head. "No, not because we fight, but because we love." Cade blinked. "That's what scares them. That's what they don't understand. Love makes us brave. Love makes us relentless. Love makes us refuse to fall." Her voice was quiet, but each word carried weight. "And when we protect someone we love, we become something the universe cannot stop." Cade looked at her. "We become human." Rhea smiled, soft, tired, real. "Yes," she whispered. Exactly. The stars stretched forward, the ship moved, and humanity continued, not as conquerors, but as guardians. ND. If you enjoyed this video, like this video, subscribing, and clicking the bell icon to stay updated with fresh content every day.